Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to Friday Business, 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations right here on Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa, and we'll start as we would normally do, which is at the global space. Oil prices we see today, it fell and is heading for steep weekly losses amid easing supply concerns as more stranded oil tankers exit the Strait of Hormuz, even though a cargo vessel was hit near Oman on Thursday. So when we look at the prices, we see the numbers in red, deep red, 1.93% at $73.81 a barrel. That's what we have for Brent. WTI lost more than 2%, 2.02% at $70.51 a barrel. Both benchmark contracts jumped more than 2% on Thursday after a cargo vessel was hit by an unknown projectile near Oman, prompting the United Nations Shipping Agency to suspend its voluntary evacuation scheme. And two U.S. officials said that Iran fired on the cargo ship as it attempted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian authorities have said that the security of the vessel passing outside designated Hormuz routes is not guaranteed, and I guess that's why they decided to take that stand. So let's find out what all of this means to the peace talks. We were hoping that by the end of this weekend, we would hear that there's a peace agreement that has been reached. But I wonder if that would happen. Today's Friday, and we'll see if that will happen by the end of the weekend. We'll see what all of this means to the peace talks and even to the Nigerian economy. But let's head to see how Nigeria's market closed on Thursday yesterday. And we saw that the oil share is still down in the red. Not as bad as the previous day's close, but still bad indeed. Lost 0.64%, closed at 233,580.83. The market cap has lost the 150,000 or trillion naira level. Is now at 149 trillion, 149.888 trillion naira is what we closed at yesterday. Obviously, bleeding market is what we still have. Volume, value, and deals all in the red at the close of trade yesterday. Look at the top gainers: Red Star, Rex, Legend, and Nemeth. They were the top gainers. Top losers will tell you the strong and big ones in the market who dragged the market down. Aradel, of course, top on the list of that. Deep Cap and Trans Express, they lost yesterday, the top losers. And top trades still on the red side, I must add, even though the top trades, Access Core, Champs, and Fidelity Bank is still experiencing a lot of profit taking. Now, S&P Global has raised its forecast for Nigeria's inflation rate in 2026 to 16.9%. That's up from its previous projection of 16.4%, citing persistent price pressures in the economy. The ratings agency says that higher fuel and food costs are likely to keep inflation elevated despite ongoing economic reforms. The revised outlook comes as Nigeria's inflation rate went up 15.93% in May, marking the third consecutive monthly increase. Despite the higher inflation forecast, S&P expects Nigeria's economy to grow by about 4.2% next year, supported by improving macroeconomic conditions and ongoing reforms. And now the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Edele, has said that Nigeria's revenue challenge lies in expanding the tax net rather than increasing tax rates, stressing that the country needs more taxpayers, not higher taxes. Mr. Edele spoke in Abuja while receiving the leadership of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, said that the Federal Ministry of Finance at the end of the Institute's maiden National Tax Awareness Day, which featured a road walk and taxpayer sensitization at Use Market, as well as a visit to the headquarters of the Nigerian Revenue Service. The awareness campaign coincides with 1 year since President Bola Tinubu signed Nigeria's landmark Tax Reform Act into law. in June 2025, is commending the Institute for supporting the federal government's tax reform agenda. Mr. Oyedele said that public misunderstanding of taxation remains one of the biggest obstacles to improving compliance. According to him, many Nigerians still believe that whenever the government talks about taxation, it's simply seeking to collect more money from citizens. It's ready. It's ready. We'll take a short break. We'll be back. Welcome back to watching Business Morning right here on Channels Television. We had talked about and Iran and that strike, and then of course the United Nations withdrawing or being not so excited about protecting some of those ships, and all of this in the midst of the peace talks between the United States and Iran. Let's find out perhaps what we know now and what to expect, especially for the Nigerian economy, because all of this will always sit down to the emerging economy. We have Dr. Jerry Grillo. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Seller Capital Limited. joining us. Dr. Igulu, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Annie, and good morning to the viewers.
Yeah, I wonder, are you expecting a peace talk results at the end of this weekend with this new strike that we have seen at the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, there was a timeline that has been set for the peace talks to go through the peace talk, which is about 60 days. So, of course, these are early days. We've seen, but more importantly, what we've seen is that there is an agreement to start doing something, which is to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Unfortunately, we have seen disagreements in the negotiation processes, and that is what is emanating with this strike, with all the disruption we have seen. But most importantly, the peace initial memorandum that was signed says there is a ceasefire, and the ceasefire continues, and of course we believe that given the circumstances, what has happened will be resolved quite quickly. Yes.
So we still stay optimistic, yeah?
Yes, I mean, I think at this point we are tired of the crew.
We are tired of pessimism.
So now we have to continue to be optimistic, but cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, but I don't think the price of oil is being cautious about that optimism, because, I mean, if you look at Brent here, it's down almost 2%, 1.93%, and WTI is down even more than 2%. We're down to $73. Yes. You know, so it looks like everybody is like, this has to work or nothing. But what if it doesn't work?
Well, I believe that the question that you've just asked is the biggest question. What if it doesn't work? Now, I think where we have all gotten to, even between the US, Iran, and the global economic environment, is that everyone believes that this must work. Now, the global reserve is running out. Most of the countries, as you know, they dump their reserve into the global economy, into the global market to suppress the price of crude. We saw the price of crude going up almost $120 per barrel, and it's beginning to come down. Everybody is tired of this, you know.
Is President Trump tired yet?
I believe he is, because
I mean, inflation is also eating it up in the United States.
Yes, of course.
They have 3 consecutive increases now.
Yes, of course. The point is that he has an election coming in November, a midterm election coming in November. The price of gas in the US is almost, in some places, above $6 a gallon. Now, that is what the people feel, as we also feel it here. Once the price of petrol goes up, you know how we all feel, especially the motorists and even all the commuters, we feel it immediately in our pocket. So the US citizens are feeling it, and I believe that he's listening to them, and he will find a way to make sure that you know, we have a better global geopolitical environment.
So how all of this, how does it play out, you know, here in Nigeria, our economy? We know that there's been an announcement by Dangote about reduction in the price of petrol. We're trying to make others also reduce, because when the price was going up, they were quick to increase and all of that, but it's not so easy to reduce. But how is all of this affecting us as consumers, government revenue, you know, back here in Nigeria?
Yes, so for me, really, the conversation around the challenge we are having between the US and Iran in the Middle East, it's no longer about whether there's peace or not. It's what next? What next for Nigerian economy? What next for Nigerians ourselves? And what next for our pockets? Now, let's look at the crude prices. We have seen significant decrease in crude prices in the recent times. The crude price has come down significantly from the prices that they hit during the peak of this crisis. Now, how does that affect us? We begin to see reduction in petrol price already, right? And which means that we begin to see some ease in our pockets when we buy petrol in the pumps, right? Of course, our inflation figure still remains a little bit elevated, and then it's a transmission. And
S&P Global is telling us it's going to stay that way for a bit.
Yes, it's going to, because if you remember correctly, before the war started, our food price inflation was already going up before the crisis started. And now with the crisis, it's also exacerbated with the cost of transportation, cost of logistics, of moving food items around in the country. That adds to the inflation.
Adding to our insecurity challenge, which is the reality also affecting food and
food production. Yes, yeah. It affects food production, and of course, if you add all those into play, then you begin to think that the reduction in crude pricing only might not be enough to significant impact on the inflation rate immediately. However, if the peace plans is sustained, we hope that the food prices continue to remain quite stable, going down towards at least $65 so that we can cushion our, the benchmark we have for our budget, so that we are not also under the,
we're also looking at government revenue.
Yes.
The government has been enjoying since the war started. It's time for them to cut out some of those gains.
Well, I wouldn't say enjoying that way.
How did they getting more money from?
Of course, there's more revenue for the fiscals. However, there's more challenges that we need to fix. So it means that we have more foreign reserve to be able to
Yes, we do have our foreign reserve has really gone up.
So
more than 50 now.
Yes, that then will have to give us the opportunity to begin to look at the naira. How strong is the naira? The naira already also is still in that space where we are beginning to see a lot of confidence coming into it, but how sustainable is that? So that is what that cushion would do for us, but we need it to be sustainable over a long period so that then our people can begin to enjoy the benefit of the peace we are experiencing in global geopolitics.
The message in Nigeria now is that there's been recovery, let's sustain it and let's get to growth. I think that's the story with Nigeria's economy, because last year we celebrated macroeconomic data, but we haven't seen it in the micro, so that's what we're waiting for. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Gwilo, for joining us this morning. Dr. Jerry Gwilo, the Chief Executive Officer of the Senate Capital Limited, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eni. Thank you for having me once again. Have a great day.
You too. All right, now University, a leading private tertiary institution based in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, has expanded its footprint in the country's commercial nerve here in Lagos with the launch of Now Business School, a state-of-the-art institution that's designed to develop the next generation of business leaders and innovators. Equipped with world-class facilities, cutting-edge technology, and modern learning resources, the school aims to bridge the gap between academic knowledge and industry needs. We have the details in this report.
The unveiling of Now Business School in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, brings together academics and members of the business community. You all gather to witness a new chapter in management education. Guests are taken on a tour of the facility, showcasing modern lecture theatres, executive learning suites, digital collaboration spaces, and advanced technological infrastructure designed to support world-class learning and research.
And the pressure to get into that...
The Vice-Chancellor of Now University, Professor Dili Dogo, explains the decision that led to the establishment of the business school in Lagos.
We are actually here to connect with the business hub of Nigeria. And we see the business hub as a strategic partner in whatever we do. And if we are going to be a source of impact in the Nigerian economic development and in the Nigerian education space, then we have to be accessible.
As businesses navigate global technological disruptions, such as artificial intelligence, the Dean of the institution says Now Business School will play an important role in developing the next generation of corporate leaders and entrepreneurs, while the Pro-Chancellor speaks on his expectations in the future.
If you have jobs that are not important today and they won't be important in the future, they are redundant skills. I can tell you that a lot of what universities teach are redundant skills because legacy thing. And then the second thing is that there are jobs that are important today. They will still be important in the future, but their importance will not increase. They are the foundational subjects. We teach those ones. And then there are jobs that are important today. Their importance will increase because of artificial intelligence. We teach those subjects.
Beyond Lagos and their existing campus in Abuja, I would expect over time that we would expand to all the major cities in Nigeria. But I think we've been very cautious about growing and having a success in Abuja. We want success in Lagos. I would expect we would have a large campus in Lagos. But beyond that, I'd expect in the next 25 years we could have campuses throughout the country.
With state-of-the-art facilities and a strong focus on leadership, innovation, and enterprise, Now Business School is positioning itself as a center of excellence for management education, not only in Nigeria, but across the continent.
watching Business Morning right here on Channels Television. And now we're talking education. If you've been on Twitter recently, and of course you're following the Nigerian topics, you will see a whole lot about Nel Fund, stories about payouts and all. And I know we did have this conversation on Business Morning last week, but I guess we have to respond to some of those issues raised on social media. And we have with us here the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Nel Fund, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer. Right here, Mr. Sawyer, good to have you.
Thank you.
Here.
Good to be here.
And I know you've been seeing those questions and concerns being raised about the loan. Another part talks about appointment of recruits. They say after over a year of appointment, in letters which you signed, and I'm glad you're here,
yes,
the recruits are yet to get jobs.
Right.
So let's start from there, and then we can go to the issue of the payout and some issues on social media.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And as you rightly pointed out, Nel Fund is very topical. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has done something revolutionary. He's come up with this Nel Fund program. And of course, everybody is interested in getting involved. Everybody is interested in understanding whether it's real or not. Everybody is interested in knowing whether there's a future to it. What I can tell you is for that reason, there are lots of questions, lots of queries, lots of chatter. The way it's working at the moment is that we started with a long-term plan. And if you read the mandate, it mandates us to provide educational support, financial support for those going to tertiary institutions, universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. It also has a provision for us to support skills acquisition. So all our plans, everything we've done has been geared towards meeting that mandate, including the recruitment of staff and also setting up of regional offices. Now I can tell you that for one or two reasons, some of those things have been held up, and it has clearly affected our timetabling. What I can tell you is that the intentions are good, and our objective is always to make good on our promises. I can't really say much more than that on the subject of the recruits, but our intentions as Nel Fund are good, and we're following the mandate, and if we follow the mandate given to us by the National Assembly, we are in order to bring in.
Yeah, but I mean, if you say you would understand when people want more. Okay, even if you can tell us what has happened to cause the delay, what is the plan, to move forward for progress? At least people should know that.
So, anywhere in the world, if you make any sort of offer to someone, you caveat it by saying, we will contact you when the time is right. Okay? And that's essentially what will happen. When the time is right, provided that people meet up with the criteria, we also have a very robust screening process. And I don't know what and who's affected by the screening so far, but we're constantly screening those that we may have appointed when we first started. But in the fullness of time, as this program expands, people will be recognized for the recognition that we gave them in the first place. What I will tell you is that, look, it is fair for people to be anxious, to be concerned, to want to know what's going to happen next. And I'm not going to belittle that. It is fair for people to want to know. But I'm not going to do that on national television because every case is different. And of course, in due course, we will be in touch with those who need to know what they need to know. But the intentions are good, right from the top, from the president's intention to set up the scheme, through down to us who are charged with implementing the scheme. Our intentions are good.
All right, we do hope that you would reach out to them because, when the citizens cannot reach the government, then they reach out to the media and they expect the media to be able to bridge that gap, which is why we're having this conversation. now.
I love the conversation. You're absolutely right. The citizens have a role to play. The government has a role to play. The media has a role to play. We all have a role to play to make this society the best that it can be. I have no criticism of your asking me these questions. I welcome these questions, and I have no issues with the citizenry saying, look, what's going on with this or that or the other. It is entirely their right. They are the people who put the government in power. So, we're happy to have the questions, happy to discuss it, but, there are certain things that for one reason or the other, you have to be specific about, not general about.
Okay, and then the other part, we see you're really active on X. Tell us when you pay off and when you give out some funds. What's the update on that? I know that was an issue some time ago, but I think you've dealt with that majorly.
What was the issue?
Paying to schools, school fees, and all of that. Yeah. A couple of students did go to X to say they were not, the schools weren't getting paid and all that.
Okay, all right. So look, again, there's overriding public interest in what NELFund is doing, and it is right and welcome. The reality of it is that we have a process. People apply for these loans. We go through a process of validating, verifying, approving, having confirmed, and we then make payments. At certain stages, if we find things are untoward or not quite right, we don't make the payments. So again, what I will tell you is that we are a transparent organization. Every time we give money to a school, we ask them to acknowledge, and we publish the acknowledgement for the same reason that you're being asked this question, so that if there's a gap in your school or a gap for you, you can say, hey, look, why has that school been paid and we haven't been paid? Why has this person been paid and why haven't funds or stipends reached me? That's why we do it. This is going to be...
there's no suspension of students' allowance.
So what has happened is that we are naturally receiving a huge number of applications. We have close to 1.8 million applications. We have 1.6 million people that we've been paying. The 1.6 million people, a great majority of them receive monthly stipends from us. This is all in 24 months, okay? The system we started with has never failed us, but we don't want it to fail us. So we are upgrading, we are putting in more security into the system to ensure that with the overwhelming interest and support and applications, we can fix it. The simplest example I can give you is that if you build a highway, at some point, you're going to look at the traffic, the number of cars, the number of vehicles that are using that highway, and you may need to do some maintenance on that highway so that it doesn't break down, it doesn't collapse. We've built a highway, we have a number of vehicles using that highway. In our case, it's students applying to ply the highway, and at some point, we've got to say, hey, look, do we have a robust enough system? We are upgrading our systems. We're going to have something called NELFund 2.0. Our people are working on it at the moment. And naturally, there are going to be hitches. Sometimes, in the greatest countries in the world, systems go down. It's better to shut it down and maintain it than have it go down and be struggling to
Perhaps the students were not informed. That's why people are worried. Like, we're going to have a hitch this period because we're on maintenance and upgrade. Then people will know what to expect.
So, let's be a little bit careful. We provide information on a regular basis about what we're doing. That is the absolute truth. But the reality of it is that when it comes to money, especially amongst the student population, they are naturally anxious if something is slightly delayed or something is late. I've been on programs and explained this numerous times. But I do expect more and more people to say, hey, look, what's going on? I'm expecting this money. I need this money. What I can assure you is the president is fully committed to this program. And he's the one that mandates us to ensure that nothing, absolutely nothing goes wrong with our disbursements. Absolutely nothing goes wrong with our ensuring that these funds reach the right people at the right time. The issue you're raising is about timing. It's important for us to make sure that the monies reach people at the right time. But in order for us to do that on a sustainable basis, given our projections for demand, sometimes we have to slow the timing down so that we can get it right in the long run.
And I know this is a question you must have answered a couple of times, because even I have asked the sustainability of this. truth is, citizens in Nigeria are not so used to getting goodies from the government. And because it's been on for a couple of times or a couple of years, when they see something that seems too good to be true, they say, no, this cannot be true. So a lot of people are asking, you're giving these loans and the money keeps coming. We can't expect it to keep coming. What cycle do you have for sustenance of this much money? Because more people will obviously apply, as you have said. A lot of students are applying even now.
So let me start off by saying that the most unsustainable position we can find ourselves in this country is to continue to grow our population and provide that population with no opportunity to get an education.
Correct.
That is not just a problem from the perspective of the individual. It's a problem from the perspective of the nation. If we have a nation of uneducated, ignorant people, we're finished. What the president is trying to do is to intervene and make sure that we fix that problem, and we fix it now. In terms of long-term sustainability, as you know, what we need to do is put structures in place. I can tell you that the law that set this up allows for us not just to recover some of the funds from those who can pay when they have jobs, only when they have jobs. It also allows for us to be an integrator that allows those who want to donate into the fund for one reason or the other, for one specific group or another, to be able to receive those funds and make those funds available to those who need it. Look, at the end of the day, government is funding this today. Tomorrow, you will see a lot of private sector participation. It's one of the reasons that we're being so transparent about what we're doing. We want everyone to know where every kobo comes from and where every kobo ends up. We cannot afford to have mistrust around this system. That's the first objective that we have to ensure sustainability. But of course, the other thing I should tell you is that if we keep this going for long enough and enough people graduate, qualify in the right sorts of courses that add value to the nation, they will become taxpayers. Whatever the tax base is today can be quadrupled if we take this to a point where more and more people are employable, more and more people are educated so that they know what to do with themselves when they're managing society, managing infrastructure, managing the things that are important for this nation. So sustainability is always a challenge with any good idea, with anything you do where there's demand. If you build a road and too many cars want to use it, it can break down. How are you going to sustain the road? You put some plans in place and you put some structures in place to ensure that there's some sort of...
there's law that's protecting it, so it doesn't matter who is in Aso Rock, the law.
The president has set this up to live beyond him, beyond his tenure. I work for NELFund, and I can tell you that the political will, the political backing from the top is that this is not a program, it's not a party program. This is a national program for everyone. And that's why it's so exciting for us to get involved. In terms of the long-term sustainability, we just need to put the laws need to be there, but of course the replenishment of funds need to be there.
Yeah.
And I've already explained from the tax base how that can happen.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sawyer. Mr. PoliticsToday Sawyer, the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of NELFund.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here, and bring me on again. Let's keep talking. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
We must discuss this issue. It's too vital. It's a national issue for it to be personalized or swept under the carpet. Let's keep talking about this.
Correct. We'll do that. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And I hope the students are a bit happy today and relieved. We would bring him on again when we'll see more questions from you. But for now, let's take a break. When we come back on the program, we'll be back with another conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Business Morning here on Channels Television. We're talking infrastructure now. Have a bit of touch from the international scene, where the Private Infrastructure Development Group, that's the PIDG, has committed partner with Global Infrastructure Partners, GIP, a part of BlackRock, and they're set to help mobilize approximately $750 million private institutional investment into climate resilient infrastructure in emerging markets and developing economies, which of course you know Nigeria is part of, and is subject to regulatory and investor approvals. PIDG is set to support GIP Infrastructure Resilience Development Fund through a $6.4 million first loss Catholic capital investment. Let's find out what all of this is about and how it concerns you. We're doing this with the Chief Sustainability Impact Officer of PIDG, joining us virtually from Geneva, Mr. Marco Serena. Mr. Serena, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
Great. So help us understand what all of this is about and why it concerns Africans.
Well, we all know that it's proven difficult to get institutional money from offshore into emerging markets, and in particular into Africa. And what this fund is doing is bringing together 6 large insurance companies who want to invest in infrastructure with a deliberate goal of improving infrastructure that withstands all the extreme heat, floods, etc. that we're seeing today. And what we're doing is coming in with a junior tranche, with a guarantee to ensure that this $750 million fund covers both investment grade and non-investment grade countries, and that Africa is included in the mandate of the fund. That will really enable our infrastructure development group within on the continent for 25 years, investing in infrastructure and using the capital guarantees and our own blend in that fund to bring capital on the continent.
All right, so we talk about the challenge of investments coming into emerging markets and winning the confidence. Will you be working with countries as individuals, or are you passing through the AU? How are you really connecting to the continent?
So we've got a strong presence on the continent. As I said, as PID, we've been on the continent for 25 years. We've invested significantly in Nigeria. Our mandate that fund, and we made several investments there. We're also the founder of the Nigerian investment, for example, of infrastructure in Nigeria, that itself is mobilizing about new investors from Nigeria into infrastructure asset class. This year, just earlier in the year, our largest investment has been again in Nigeria for the year, and what we try to do is, I was listening to the program earlier, you're talking about translating public confidence of investors into real world investment and change that makes a difference to people. So what we did is we partnered with another processing company in the construction sector. We know that only 10% of what Nigeria produces gets processed before getting exported, and 80% of the value is lost by that. So what we've done is we've offered a guarantee working a life insured bond that is invested by investors from the City of London. It's a $55 million investment that will enable an expanded processing plant in the urban state, sourcing from 10,000 people, providing 900 jobs. That's the type of investment we're going to see more of. The issue is that offshore investors are still wary of the risk. They don't know the risk enough. And so that's why this fund, which is a fund, is fund that is global investors more comfortable with the infrastructure as it in emerging markets, partners like us much more closely, and that's why it's important that Africa is included in the market.
Yeah, so I'm in Nigeria, so permit me if I'm a bit selfish. Anything specific for Nigeria, or where's Nigeria's role in all of this?
We hope so. The investment, the details of the pipeline are open, and certainly there's a commitment to look across all countries, including Nigeria. What I've learned is that we will continue to invest in Nigeria's PIDG, and we will do what we can to keep bringing this on as well to the country.
All right. Just before I let you go, for a lot of Africans, I don't know if that has changed. The thought that climate change is a challenge, let's do something about it, seem a bit far. Has that changed from your interaction with the continent?
Well, I think, we can call it climate change, we can call it food particles, rainfall change, we can call it, the seeds are large, the right ones for this type of weather. People are interested in how the economic activities need to face important challenges. And infrastructure that is set up in order to withstand extreme heat, withstand floods, is a business sense. This is a fund in particular for transportation resilience. So we cannot escape the fact that the temperatures are going up, and to be such a sector is this last to help to think about not just what the will be, but also what they will be in the future, and what the scenarios are. I think that's exactly what this fund is looking about, and then that's what we're focusing on.
All right, Mr. Marcus Serena, thank you so much for your time on the program this morning. Chief Sustainable Impact Officer at PIDG.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, Africa is attracting a lot of attention in capital and the need for relationships. One of the latest that has been sustained over 10 years is the Nigeria EU Business Forum. We had that yesterday in Lagos, and we'll give you the reports.
For over a decade now, Nigeria and the European Union have been holding their annual business forum in Lagos. It's a meeting of senior policymakers, investors and business leaders to deepen trade and investment ties from both countries. For 2026, the focus is to translate dialogue into concrete partnerships and investment outcomes. The plan, according to the forum, is to center on mobilizing private capital, strengthening value chains, and expanding opportunities for businesses operating across both markets, all of which Nigeria says it's open to. The reality of Nigeria's operating environment is dissected by members of the panel. There are promises to resolve this. Organizers say the forum will build on outcome of this edition as well as previous editions with a strong emphasis on facilitating partnerships and strengthening investment pipeline.
Let's go global, please. Looking outside Africa now, an attack on a container vessel sailing through the Strait of Hormuz has prompted some ship owners to review exit plans, but traffic continued to through the vital thoroughfare, and 2 fully laden tankers are heading out of the Persian Gulf, while 4 empty inbound, very large crude carriers are among the vessels sailing along the Omani coast. Ship tracking data shows this. Well, this southern route is managed by Oman and coordinated by the United States. Meanwhile, the UN's International Maritime Organization has paused the planned evacuation of more than 11,000 sailors stranded in the Strait of Hormuz after a cargo ship passing through the waterway was attacked. The British Maritime Security Agency reports that a ship had been struck 7.5 nautical miles southeast of Oman's port of Dahit by an unknown projectile. No casualties were reported. U.S. officials said that Iran had fired on the ship. According to U.S. media, and the body set up by Iran to manage the strait said vessels passing outside designated routes would not be guaranteed safe passage. Hundreds of ships and thousands of sailors have been stranded in the Gulf since February because of the U.S.-Israel war against Iran. Palm oil advanced on rising Malaysian exports and expectations of better demand from the biggest buyer, India, as festival season nears. Benchmark futures we saw rose 4,600 ringgit a ton on Bursa Malaysia derivatives, impairing a weekly loss. Malaysian exports rose 11% in the first 25 days of June compared with the previous month, including higher shipment to India. And traders are saying that exports increased by a similar amount. And let's see how the market closed in the United States yesterday. Our correspondent Maria Bird gives us the details. I guess we'll see signs of that by midday today or intraday market when we come for Business Incorporated, if indeed there will be a recovery before the end of the week. Away from the United States, Tokyo Consumer Price Index inflation rose from a 4-year low in June, with core inflation also rising amid higher energy prices stemming from the Middle East conflict. Core CPI, which excludes volatile fresh food prices, rose 1.6% year-on-year, and government data shows this. The print was in line with expectations and accelerated from 1.3% in the previous month. Headline CPI grew 1.6% year-on-year, rising from the 1.4% in the previous month. And Chinese automakers may be nearing a demand floor after a difficult second quarter, but a meaningful recovery is unlikely before late summer. This is according to Morgan Stanley analysts. The brokerage said that recent discussions suggest vehicle sales have stabilized, though consumer demand remains weak and earnings catalysts are limited in the near term. The analyst said that June sales should prove stronger than headline data indicate, helped by extended mid-year promotions, government subsidies, license plate incentives in some cities, and lower fuel prices. Well, Morgan Stanley expects July to remain seasonally soft, with a more meaningful rebound potentially emerging in August and September as new model launches, and there's also supportive policies and seasonal demand factors converge. Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix are set to unveil massive long-term investment plans focused on semiconductors, artificial intelligence infrastructure, and other advanced technologies at a government event next week, South Korea, according to reports from that country. Well, the report said that the investments would exceed 1 trillion won, that's about $646 billion, and it will be spread over the next decade, potentially marking the largest corporate investment commitment in South Korean history. This war is still going on in Ukraine. The president there, Volodymyr Zelensky, has approved a 40-day operation to influence Russia into ending the war after receiving briefing from the head of his security service on strikes against Russian targets. Mr. Zelensky offered more details of the plan in the post, which he shared on his social media, but he praised the performance of Ukraine's security services in defending the country's positions on the front lines through the use of drones. Yesterday we saw red color on the crypto headlines continues today. Guess what? Bitcoin has dropped less than 60,000, remaining close to its lowest levels this year after the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge climbed to its highest level since 2023, keeping interest rate hikes in play. The world's largest crypto was last down 1.7% to $59,936.45, remaining close to a 1.5-year low hit in June. And the crypto markets remain under pressure from growing expectation that the United States Federal Reserve will either keep interest rates high for longer or even raise them further this year. From the global headlines, and we say that's it for Business Morning, but it's a full day for you and I today because I'll be back at 1:30 to give you an update from the world of business, especially from the African scene, and of course what's going on in the markets. I'm Amy John McCraw. I'll see you later.